think if you view the competition as that, as sort of growing the whole pie, as opposed to just this small pie now being divided up, I think you have a more infinite view of your business. At the beginning, we felt like it was maybe this small pie that we had to get a share in. Now I view it much more as, hey, this is a long-term game, and I think the pie will only get bigger. I would hope that my competitors do a good job in marketing the product. Probably competitors with bigger budgets than us, if they drive more awareness to the category, that'll probably be good for us as a smaller brand. So,
welcome, Andrew. Very nice to have you.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to speak with you today. You write on LinkedIn that you are a finance guy with an entrepreneurial spirit. So it's very interesting to hear a bit about your story, how you decided to start an e-commerce brand.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's, I think today where I stand, that's sort of the perspective of how I think about myself. I sort of went through the traditional route of, schooling and education. I am a trained accountant, a CPA, or at least I was a CPA until last year when I gave up my CPA designation. But I went through a CPA certification in Canada because I was born in Montreal, and sort of went to work in different industries. So I worked in sort of retail and fashion, different brands for the past, let's say decade, a little bit more than a decade, always in different financial analytical types of roles. So budgeting, forecasting, financial planning, and so on for companies. And sort of that was my strength, I would say. I was always good with numbers and always was interested in business. So I think marrying the two led me to the world of finance. But the entrepreneurial spirit that I have, as I'd say probably from a young age, I was always the type of person that was interested. Believe it or not, I mean, if I think back, I was probably 10 or 12 years old when I knew of Alibaba at the time. And that, nowadays you hear about it like it's much more known. But back in the day, the first hustle that I did was when the first iPod came out, I bought these sort of earphone kind of spools, if you want to call them that. They're these little silicone earphone spools. I think I bought them for $1 or something like that. I bought 50 of them and sold them for $5. And, at my high school, a lot of people were trying to get, where we're getting iPods because this is the new thing back in the day. And it was just something so simple. And then I started venturing into different hustles, like, again, through Alibaba, buying basically Lacoste polos when that was very trendy. And I don't mean they weren't real polos, but they looked very real at least. So bought those and sold those. I was always into selling sort of tickets to shows or, different things like that, where I was kind of like, had that sort of hustler sort of spirit. But like I said, sort of went the traditional route, working for different global companies and kind of getting experience there. But 5 years ago, sort of happened kind of randomly, but my wife and I decided to embark on this project of starting a company we call BEVVO. We were, smoothie fans. At the time, we were living in the city of Montreal. So we lived in the city center and we probably worked, 15, 20-minute walk to work. So we would often make our smoothies in the morning, walk up to work and then have the smoothies while we were there or, sip on it kind of on the go. But at the time, we had a sort of plug-in blender. We'd plug it in, transfer it to each of our cups, like a vacuum insulated bottle and so on. And then by the time we got to work, we'd have it. And often, maybe the smoothie freshness or that kind of initial freshness of the smoothie was gone. So I just Googled portable blender, or maybe I Googled cordless blender or compact blender, I think was what I Googled. And, saw a couple of different options, mostly still plugged in. But at the time, there was one that had, that was kind of just new, like a sort of cordless blender. But the look of it wasn't something that, it looked more like a gadget, kind of like a toy. So we started searching for suppliers just to see if there are, other options, not thinking that we would start this brand ourselves, and then found something that sort of resonated with us. It was a good looking product. But in terms of, entering a relationship with it, the supplier wanted us to have certain minimum order quantities and so on. So, we were trying to get a sample just for ourselves. But then we thought, hey, what if we start trying to, sell these things? Could we sell it? I think maybe the previous experience that I had with, buying and selling different things, that kind of spirit came back to the front. So we started on a project of just creating a brand, creating a logo, design, packaging. At the time, I think minimum order quantity with this supplier was 1,000 units, which we were able to split up into a couple of different colors. We were able to negotiate that. So we did that at the middle or so of 2018. We started developing that stuff. They had a product that we really liked the baseline look of, but we modified a little bit to our liking, and then put our logo on there and tested the market. And there was really good feedback in the market. And we sold through sort of what we wanted to of that first generation. But there were a lot of learnings in terms of where we could improve the product and, just learning in general in terms of e-commerce. Our idea was to sell directly to consumer. At the time, we had no sort of aspirations for retail or anything like that, but we thought it would be a cool product that people would enjoy, like we were enjoying. And we were proven right. So we did that by launching in 2019, sold through that inventory. And before really, we sold through that inventory, ordered more inventory, and then before committing to getting more inventory of this first generation version, we developed a second generation version by slightly modifying an existing product that the supplier had. So we did that, launched at the beginning of 2020, we went on pre-order at the beginning of 2020, and then the pandemic hit. So all our time frame for delivery was completely thrown out the window, and that was a tough period for us. We had a whole backlog of pre-orders, and we needed to deliver by a certain time. We started pre-order in February of 2020 with the expectation that we would deliver end of April 2020. And then, beginning of March 2020, the pandemic hit, factories got closed, there were delays and so on. So at that point, we had already accumulated pre-orders. We were still taking pre-orders because our supplier was saying they could still hit the end of April target. And then, slowly but surely, we kept having to delay and kept having to update customers. So that was definitely a challenge for us. At some points, customers didn't want to wait. They were refunding. There was a lot of skepticism or fear around products that were not, let's say, USA made. So customers were canceling. So that was a very challenging period for us, but we finally got through. We started delivering through orders around June and July. We were air shipping orders into the US and then shipping to customers from there to be able to satisfy the demand. And then we kept selling through our, basically focusing on our BEVVO 2 version, our second generation version, for the next couple of years, until 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more than 2 years ago now, until 2 years ago, we decided that we were going to embark on creating a new product from scratch, which is now what we're excited to be launching very shortly, basically our BEVVO 3 version. We were reached out to by a supplier that has their R&D based in the US, and sort of their design and their R&D team is based there. So from a cultural point of view, it was very easy to communicate with them and kind of communicate our vision for the product that we were trying to create. And took us a little while to really jump on board with this new supplier. But I think what really sealed the deal is us trying to create the third generation version with our previous supplier, and us sort of not being on the same page of how high quality we wanted the product to be. And I don't think they were able to deliver the product at that level. So at that point, we had already had discussions with this new supplier. And ultimately, we just pulled the trigger. And that was, I would say, the beginning of 2021, or middle of 2021, when we started the discussions, and then sort of finalized things close to the end of 2021. And that's when we began the design process and prototyping and redesigning and so on. So, sorry, that was a long-winded explanation, but that's sort of the journey from, going from a finance guy, which I still am very excited and passionate about. I love numbers, but going from that and then deciding that we wanted to create a product that, I mean, ultimately, like I said, we love smoothies. And I think it's a product that, especially having it sort of on your countertop, anybody can use it, young to old. I mean, we have a 3-year-old daughter now who loves smoothies, and it's a quick and easy hack of a way to get vegetables or any sort of legumes in. Sometimes we'll create a smoothie with like bananas or strawberries and sneak in chickpeas or other little things that are good for broccoli, for example. So someone super young to, as old as you can imagine can benefit from this product. And I think having something that's compact that they can use on a daily basis makes it very easy for them to get fruits in or vegetables into their diet without much of the hassle that we sort of experience with a bigger blender when you have to plug it in or, when you have to clean it thoroughly after use. So that's sort of where we are today. And excited obviously for this Gen 3 to launch.
Really cool story. It seems that you came from a problem that you had yourself, right? You didn't find a solution, classical story. And then you decided just to find a product that is different, in the market. It's interesting. Also, a lot of founders usually come from either the marketing perspective or from a product perspective. How did you experience that from a finance perspective? I think you've seen a lot of businesses from the inside. So how did that change your view? You still decided to do it? So
yeah, I would say, looking back, I think there would be some skill sets that I would acquire externally before jumping into something like that, because it was really a whole new world, the world of e-commerce and selling online. It wasn't as simple as we initially thought. And probably, I'm sure you hear this all the time too with other brand founders. If you knew how hard it would be, maybe you wouldn't have jumped in, right? But slowly but surely, we found out how challenging something like this could be, creating a new product and even just selling the product, much more challenging than we originally thought. I think from my skill set, bringing in like the sort of finance component, numbers component, that's valuable when sort of business is running and you're able to allocate capital or resource in the right areas to sort of generate return.
I think one thing that stood out when I also read your post on LinkedIn is that you really focused on iterating the product and making the best product possible. I think you were on this point where you had to decide, should we continue with the second version or do we really want to take the time and effort and go into the third version? Like, what drives you to really make the best product, and have you seen also that the results of that focus?
Right. That's a great question, actually, because that was something I would say in our nature initially to not to do, really to slow down. And I think when we started, the landscape was a very new type of product. To have a blender that sort of didn't need to be plugged in, that was very new. Even if you would search on Amazon, for example, there weren't many options. So our focus at that time was probably speed. We wanted something that looked nice, that wasn't available in the market, but we knew we wanted to get to market quickly. As time progressed, we saw that there were a lot of options that became available in the market, often at the low end of the market, cheaply made. We would see, let's say, reviews of the different products available on Amazon or even some of the bigger brands, and the product didn't seem to be of a high quality. So that's what sort of put us in the direction of, well, if new people will enter the market, why is there a need for us to sort of rush to get market share? I think our fear initially was, hey, if we don't do this right away, we're going to miss out on the market. But I think over the course of the past 5 years, my mindset shifted a little bit. I think there's always going to be a market. If I look at the type of product that this is, people's concern with health, people living active lifestyles and often being on the go are things that I don't think will regress. I think people will continue to be wanting to be more healthy with remote working and with the way the way the world's evolving. I think being on the go will be an important part of things, and people wanting to stay healthy while on the go is a good marriage of those two. So rather than just sort of jumping into a generation 3 with our previous supplier and it being only incrementally better, we said, let's take a chance with this new supplier. They create products for brands that have products in, professional sports leagues. So whether it's the UFC or the Major League Baseball or the NBA, this is a supplier that we felt confident in based on the products they gave us of other brands they worked with. So they were producing stuff at a high quality. And we said, markets, the idea of market saturation, if I think of water bottles, there's hundreds of water bottle brands, right? And obviously not all of them are successful, but there are a lot of successful, very simple vacuum insulated water bottle brands. I don't know if Blender will reach the scale of something like a water bottle, but my sense was that something like this will become more widely available and more widely known over time. And we want to establish ourselves as having the product that's really the best quality product, rather than just being sort of another Me Too product. So that was kind of like our thinking. We started with wanting to do things very quickly and get our name out there in the market. But then, thinking that we would miss the opportunity, but we realized, hey, the opportunity I think will always be there. Let's slow down. Let's create something that we'll be extremely proud of, super confident in as well especially when we're approaching retail. And that's why we sort of pumped the brakes and took a couple of years to really develop this. And sort of were forced into, once we told our previous supplier that we didn't want to pursue the Generation 3 version with them, we lost access to our Generation 2. So the past couple of years have just been, without inventory essentially, and focused on developing this product. So, and that's where our mindset was.
Wow. At that point, when you started with the idea, did you think that you were generating or creating a new category, or did the category already exist, kind of?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, if it existed, it was very, very young in its existence. I mean, there were very few brands. I could say one brand really that kind of, if you could call it a brand, but what we've noticed in the past few years, some of the bigger other blender brands have started creating a portable version. So in one sense, you can think of it like, oh, wow, now there's much more competition. But I think of it as more, there's validation in the market. If these bigger brands who would traditionally create plug-in blenders or other types of appliances believe that this is a sort of worthwhile investment or worthwhile segment of the industry to pursue, I think of it as, hey, you know what? It validates the interest of consumers, and furthermore proves our point of wanting to create the product that can sit on the shelf at, high-end kitchen stores or high-end department stores, and really be sort of unique in the space where a lot of people are trying to compete now or trying to enter the space. So that's what I would say. I think initially the market was very young, and again, a lot of the stuff you saw, whether it was on Amazon or on, direct-to-consumer websites of the brands, was very flashy, very colorful, not something that resonated with me as a consumer, not something I sort of was interested in putting on my counter. It felt much more like a toy or a gadget. But I think each brand or different brands that enter the space will find their own lane, or will find customers that resonate with them. And, there are water bottles that you can buy that are, almost $200 for a water bottle that just keeps your water cold. And then you could get some at, maybe Walmart or something like that for $10. So there's a spectrum. And I think that's where we sort of respect our space in the industry. Now we recognize that people will continue to enjoy smoothies on the go for a long time, I think.
Yeah, I agree that sometimes brands think that it's quite easy to build a category, but it's really, really hard, right? If nobody knows about the category, nobody knows about it, you have to create the awareness first.
Yeah.
And then you're also basically opening up the space to others, but you're doing the hard work, being the first one. And if you have others that do that for you or help you, that can actually help you also if you have a better product, if you have a better positioning, than others to then capture the market. It's an interesting take. And how do you deal with the competition then?
It's a great point. Just to touch on what you just said, I was listening to a podcast, the Operators podcast, which is run by, 4 different operators well known in the space. So you have Simple Modern, you have Ridge, you have the founder of Pillowcase and Lumi, and then you also have Hexclad operators, brand founders and operators of those podcasts. And Mike Beckham, the person who runs Simple Modern, looks at someone like Stanley, who's had a whole lot of attention in the past, let's say, year or two, as someone who's actually benefiting Simple Modern, because it's bringing a lot of attention to the category, the sort of vacuum insulated or water bottle, water transport category. And as a result, people who were maybe not in consideration before now are. So now that they see Stanley, they may just search vacuum insulated water bottle, and then with the intention initially of getting a Stanley bottle, might find something like Simple Modern or another brand and say, you know what, I actually like this product better, this design better. So I think if you view the competition as that, as sort of growing the whole pie as opposed to just this small pie now being divided up, I think you have a more infinite view of your business and sort of the industry as a whole. At the beginning, we felt like it was maybe this small pie that we had to get a share in. Now I view it much more as, hey, this is a long-term game, and I think the pie will only get bigger as people, even today, when people see our product, they didn't even know this type of product existed. They'll say, oh, wow, you don't have to plug it in. So as small as we think we are, or as big as we think other brands are, there's people that have no idea this type of product exists and that they can benefit from. So I think we're still in very young stages of the market.
That's a great view. Interesting. So how do you deal with competitors, or how do you position yourself against other players that come in?
Yeah, I think so. Touching back on the previous question is really, hey, we wanted to create something that's of the highest quality possible. There were points over the past 2 years where we could have said, okay, the product's good enough, let's get it to market. And without the sort of sense of urgency of wanting to get it to market, we said, no, let's wait. Let's create really the best product that we could, at least. I mean, it's not perfect, right? No product is perfect. If I think of the iPhone when it launched, what that looks like and how Steve Jobs announced that product, and it was, the size of like this, and what the new iPhone look like today. If you would have held yourself back on wanting a perfect product, then you never would have launched iPhone 1, right? So I think ensuring we have a product that's of the highest quality, so that if customers take a chance on us, they'll recognize that the value in investing in that product, if it's something they're going to use every day. And in terms of competition, I think focusing on the customer is always like the priority, really. So if we could give the customer the best experience we can, cool. If a customer deems another product, better value for them or more in line with what they want, whether it's the look of the product or sort of the price point of the product or whatever it is, that's good for them as well, because competitors. And again, if you think of it like a sort of infinite game and think of the pie only getting bigger, I would hope that my competitors do a good job in marketing the product and marketing, probably competitors with bigger budgets than us, right? If they drive more awareness to the category, I think in general, that'll probably be good for us as a smaller brand. So yeah, I have no sort of idea of needing to dominate the category. I think we can have a nice segment of the category focused on high quality product and, be just fine, I think, with servicing customers who value that part of the product.
I love that view. It's a great attitude to think competition is great, the pie is getting bigger, and so the share for each of the players in this category is getting bigger.
Right.
Very nice view. Interesting. And I love the focus on great product. Obviously, one of the challenges I can think of for your product specifically is that it's not a consumable, right? So it's not per se recurring. What challenges does this bring, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that was one of the things that going into e-commerce itself, or starting the brand itself, we had no idea. Like the concept of lifetime value of a customer was something so beyond us, and we didn't realize how expensive advertising through social, traditional digital channels, whether it's through Facebook or Instagram, would be, and that the game really is a long-term game, really hoping that you build a customer, a loyal audience, and that could eventually sell them other products. So that was something that we learned throughout the process, and we iterated a little bit because, we initially launched with only the blender, and then with our second generation version, we launched accessories. Last year, we partnered or we worked with different apps that could allow us to have a marketplace on our website. So we do sell consumables right now, but it's sort of third-party consumables that we're selling as, on behalf of different brands. But without giving too much away, consumables is something that we would envision in our roadmap. It's something that we've already done a lot of research on years back, that we had started different projects on. But really landing on something that's of high quality wasn't possible at the time. And we sort of had to make a decision. Do we invest our resources in developing a better flagship product, so the blender itself, or invest it into inventory of consumables? And we sort of wanted to establish the flagship product first and establish our name in the market as that. And then eventually we believe that we can layer in consumables. We've tested, different products from different suppliers as well already. We've already gotten into that process and recipe building and so on. And we think eventually we could have sort of smoothie packets that are on the go products that customers could easily throw in there, add their milk or add their water or ice when they're on the go, and have something that's fresh and ready to go. And I think, customers will know what to do themselves. They can add their protein like they already do and so on. So I think consumables are definitely part of what we would like for the roadmap, but we want to make sure we have something of high quality. In an ideal world, could we get all organic fruits? It's something that's not really available in the market. One thing we enjoyed as well is chunked fruit. Well, a lot of the things we see in the market is, is powders. So freeze-dried powders of fruit, which we've tasted and tested, and it does give a great taste. You can feel like it's a fresh smoothie. You add a bit of ice and milk, and you really feel like it's a smoothie. But I think the experience of having, let's say, potentially chunks of freeze-dried fruit and seeing the chunks blend with our blender is more exciting, let's say, when you have a portable blender than just sort of the freeze-dried powder that's being consumed. So there's a couple of things that we've already looked at, and I think that's definitely part of our roadmap, but we want to build our customer base first, who sort of values that high quality of our blender, and then we'll translate to high quality freeze-dried packs or consumables in some other ways. But it's definitely on the roadmap. Like I said, we have a marketplace on our website right now that we haven't pushed so much really, but there's been customers that hop onto our marketplace and could pick different categories, whether it's nut butters or different latte mixes and so on. So that's where we think there's definitely value in the long term for that.
That's an interesting take. I recently spoke with a founder who said something similar, that you first have to think of a product that actually works in D2C, right, or in e-commerce. Because if you have a commodity product, which is lower AOV, etc., it coming from finance, it's very hard to make it work. So the benefit that you have a great product that works, has also better AOV. And once you have this customer base, just as you mentioned, right, you build out the customer base first, then you can add a lot of products in addition to that, even if it's more commoditized products that wouldn't work otherwise on, acquiring customers because...
Absolutely. You're 100%. The commoditized view is something that we didn't want to get into before establishing the quality product that we have. And you're 100% right. I have a list on my phone, a note on my phone. Every time I think of a product that could benefit the users of this product, whether it's them or, for example, like I mentioned, we have a 3-year-old daughter and a 3-month-old daughter now. And my younger daughter loves smoothies. One of the issues, though, is she's often having a smoothie in a cup, and there's messes involved in that. And if she's having it in a sippy cup with a straw, the straws are often too small. So I've already sort of started doing research. Can we have sort of small toddler cups with bigger straws that are meant specifically for smoothies, because it doesn't really exist in the market? Other people who will use this will obviously have kids like we do and can benefit if they're on their way to daycare or so on. You can have a vacuum insulated smoothie little tumbler with, a bigger straw that they can enjoy and there won't be any mess. So there's a lot of ideas I think that we can expand on, maybe even smoothie bowls. Maybe some people prefer having a smoothie with a fork and a spoon. So maybe you can have a sort of smoothie bowl that's an insulated kind of vacuum that'll keep the smoothie cold. Maybe there's different things that we want to experiment, but we don't want to go too wide before having a good focus on creating this product in the right way first.
Great. You shared already, because one of my questions was, what is your outlook, your vision for the brand? You shared already a little bit. Is there anything else that you see for the brand or also for yourself? Do you want to do the brand long term, or is there any plans to?
Yeah, it's like you think, how infinite could your brand be? Could you run this brand for generations? I don't know, right? Like, what will the world look like in 10 years? What will it look like in 20 years? My sense, our bet is that people will continue to want to be healthy, healthier and healthier. We think people will be increasingly mobile in the world. And we think this product sort of marries those two. I mean, maybe one day people will be able to just eat a pill or like, swallow a pill and they'll get all their nutrients. So maybe we'll be phased out at that point. But we are excited about this product. We envision us running this brand for, a number of generations at least, like not family generations, but I mean, we're in Gen 3 now with the product. We can easily envision a Gen 4, 5, 6. There's already ideas that we can do to improve this as well. So running the brand, getting it to a level where we feel can be the thing that we do for our family, and this is what we're excited about every day. That's sort of like the short-term, mid-term goal. And then who knows, right? What we can do. Would we be able to partner up with a bigger company that would give us access to more distribution? That's all sort of on the table. So we're up for anything. But I think right now it's really just launching this and like proving to ourselves that we made the right call and waiting and developing a product that we're proud of and that ultimately can sit on the shelf of the best stores of the world or best counters of the world. So that's kind of what we're focused on. You had asked one other question I wanted to touch on in what you just said, but I forgot the full question.
What was it about?
No, you had just said something. You were saying running the brand long term. Is that?
Yeah, long term. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like your next generation, your daughters, are already getting familiar with the product. So in for a generational business.
I don't know if it'll be a generational business in that sense, but who knows, right? I think for us, it's really, if we think of what our space could be in the market, there's a very if I think of Apple, they create the highest quality products and they also have an extremely high perceived value and market share. I think that's a rare triangulation. When you have the highest quality product, it's rare that you'll have the biggest market share. So I think of us as maybe sort of motorcycle brand like Ducati, who create, it's an Italian motorcycle brand. They might not have the highest market share, but they focus on creating extremely good quality products, and they have their segment of a motorcycle market in the face of Yamaha or Honda, for example. So carving out our space, not feeling the need anymore to be the market leader, but really having a space that a segment of customers can resonate with. And there'll always be customers that'll say, you know what, I value this higher quality version or the version that looks nicer or something that matches with my counters or my kitchen, in a better way. So that's what I would say. I don't know if it's a multi-generational business, but I think this will definitely be something we're excited about for the next little while. And then maybe it'll lead to, other offshoot businesses, which we already have ideas for. So who knows?
Great. From all your experience over the last 5 years and also from your finance background, what are some advice that you would give to founders?
It's funny you say specifically experience in finance. I think, I don't know what the expression would be in English, but I'm from Montreal, Canada, so I also speak French. And one of the sayings is that, the cobbler, I don't know the saying in English, but let's say the cobbler always has like the holes in his shoes. That's, I don't know the version in French. So the person that makes shoes will often have the worst shoes. So it's funny. I think having a good financial plan when you're starting, it doesn't have to be a huge business plan or a business case and so on. Maybe, unless you're trying to get funding, but having a sound financial plan before you embark on things is a really good idea. I'm a finance person, and I think I could do a lot of the stuff that we were doing at the beginning in my head. So we didn't create a formal financial plan when we started the project. And oftentimes you forget, additional costs for inventory and different things. So your unit costs and different things you're spending on kind of fall into the wayside, and you're not thinking about them as much. So I would say being clear on, your financials as a framework for you to grow your business, that's super important. And again, I'm a finance guy, and it wasn't something that I did because I felt like I had a grasp on the numbers, probably more than people who are not finance people, to be able to do it in their head. But it's always a good idea to to sort of build on that. And then I would say recognizing that deciding how long term you want to do the thing that you're doing. If you're focused on, let's say, drop shipping and you just want to be in and out in certain products, that's one mindset. For sure, you have to focus on speed. But if you truly believe that what you're building is valuable and that there's a customer that can benefit, that you can serve over a long period of time, I would say to adopt a sort of that mindset that is infinite. Really slow things down. Don't feel like you have to rush things. And then, there's the saying, haste makes waste. When you're trying to do things too quickly or, not solidifying certain things, you end up paying for it as a result. So there were instances where we would try to rush production and then there were quality issues with production, and so on. The other issues you kind of run into. So I would say being clear on the longevity of if you really think you're going to be in this and you're excited about it and I'm not saying, a generation, I'm not saying 20 years, but if you don't think it's a 3 to 6 month project that you're just trying to drop ship and trying to hustle, if you think it's longer term, in the years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and that sort of space, take the time to do the things, properly, and you'll benefit from it, whether that's designing the packaging, designing the product, obviously doing the right photography if you could afford it. I would say it always ends up being worth it in the end.
It's great advice. I think something that you've mentioned a couple of times in our conversation is don't think short term, don't get FOMO, right? Don't think
FOMO, exactly.
Whole market share, but do the right thing and think long term and
absolutely
work out.
Market's big. Like, I think at the beginning we really didn't realize. I mean, especially when you're DTC first brand, and nowadays when you could sell globally, if you have a product that you could sell globally, market's huge. I mean, people talk about market saturation. How big do you want to be? I don't think, does anybody have aspirations to be, Apple, or, what are the revenues that you're expecting? Are you expecting billions of revenues? Sure. Then in that case, maybe you'd be carving out a bigger chunk of the pie. But if you're trying to create a business that, for yourself, for your family, and help, you could say thousands, even if it's thousands of people, right? We've helped thousands of people in their daily life. And we're surprised sometimes we get emails from people, or people will, submit a review and they would have bought the product a year or two ago, right? Or when you have repeat customers, you have customers that buy a second or a third time and they're leaving a review. I've used mine for 2 years. I love it. I use it every morning. Those are the things you realize you're touching people every day and you don't even realize it, right? And it's often easy to be down on yourself when you don't have a lot of momentum in your business, and not realize that the business or the product you have extends beyond the 4 walls of what you're trying to do in your email inbox and the digital marketing space where, in Facebook Ads Manager, you're actually selling a product to people that literally benefit from this every day. In most cases, I'm talking about our blender, the smoothies, that people get to enjoy something on the go regularly. For example, we have a lot of nurses that have given us feedback. So they'll use the product when they're working overnight shifts because oftentimes restaurants are closed and they want something healthy, right? And it's compact. They can bring their fruit. Everything's closed. They're working into midnight or 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. and they're able to enjoy something fresh. So recognizing that there are like humans on the other side of what you're doing that are benefiting from, all the work you're doing. So having that sort of long-term view and really thinking how you can serve those customers in the best way is probably always the thing that's good.
I love that. Yeah. Thinking about the people that you're actually impacting, and that's often very tough when you work digitally to forget or not understand who your customers are. Absolutely. And it was really great. You had a lot of insights. Thank you so much for sharing those.
Thank you.
And who would you like to connect with? Who should connect with you, and how can they reach out to you?
Sure. Like I said at the beginning, I mean, we haven't been so vocal in our journey so far, but we're really excited about Gen 3. So, we're starting to be a bit more vocal, me specifically, and trying to be a bit more out there and explaining the journey of we've been building and, what's the good and the bad of what we've experienced. They could probably reach out to me or connect with me on LinkedIn, Andrew Dulgar. You could search me. Otherwise, eventually I'll probably do a Twitter or something, Instagram, personal. But right now we haven't done a whole lot of that. think that's the best place.
Great. We'll put also the website in there so people can check out the product. And yeah, thank you so much for being here and sharing all your insights.
Excellent. Really appreciate your time. Thanks, Christian.